Hi everyone, welcome back to Book Knowledge with Casa Curious. There are two reasons why I choose this topic. One, it was suggested by one of our subscribers. Two, amid this COVID pandemic, everyone has one question, that is, when will COVID vaccines be ready? So, I think there cannot be any more perfect time to discuss the fundamentals of immunization and vaccines. Through this video presentation, I want to enlighten the non-medical community as well to learn and have a better understanding of vaccines. Immunology and vaccinations schedules are very high yield topics during med school exams and also for other competitive exams. So, I am discussing with you some key points according to the Indian Academy of Pediatric guidelines. I have tried to make it short and concise for quick review. Hope it helps you later as well. Pay full attention for the next few minutes, and at the end of this video presentation, you should have a sound knowledge of this topic. Without any further ado, let's begin. I have divided this topic into four subtopics as follows: basic immunology, practical aspects of immunization, scheduling of vaccines, or in other words, National Immunization Schedule as of 2019, and lastly, adverse events following immunization. Please note, there are few other topics which are beyond the scope of this video. Comment if you want me to make another video on individual vaccines given in India. We all know that immunity may be broadly classified as innate and adaptive immunity. The innate immunity comprises the skin and mucosal barriers, phagocytes like neutrophils, monocytes, macrophages, and the natural killer cells. It comes into play immediately on entry of the pathogen and is non-specific. On the other hand, adaptive immunity is provided by the B lymphocytes, which are responsible for humoral antibody-mediated immunity, and T lymphocytes for cellular or cell-mediated immunity. The innate immune system triggers the development of adaptive immunity by presenting antigens to the B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Vaccines that stimulate innate immunity effectively are better immunogens. This can be achieved by live vaccines, adjuvants, toll-like receptor agonists, live vectors, and DNA vaccines. Considering that microbes like bacteria gain entry into the blood by break or tear in the skin, which is the first physical barrier, then the phagocytic cells like neutrophils that are the first responders of our immune system, and then they call in for the backup by signaling monocytes and macrophages to help contain the microbe. If the microbe is a virus, then the natural killer cells will be the first one to respond. Take note, this entire immune response occurs within few minutes to hours. Now, the adaptive immune system works a bit slow relatively and takes 1 to 5 days to show full response. As I said, the innate immune response triggers the adaptive response by activating B and T lymphocytes. B cells in turn activates the plasma cells to produce antibodies against the microbe and help kill them, while the T cells replicate and the effector cells that is CD8 T cells known as the cytotoxic cells also kills the microbes, thus providing immunity to our body against these microbes. Immunity is also classified as active and passive. The active immunity is acquired through natural infection, immunization, and is long-lasting as it generally leads to the development of memory cells. And when antigens enter the body, strong immune response is produced. Whereas passive immunity is conferred by maternal antibodies or immunoglobulin preparations given parenterally and is short-lasting, depending on the half-life of immunoglobulins. However, passive immunity provides instant protection required in cases of exposure, for example, rabies and hepatitis B virus at birth. So now let's see what are the types of vaccines. Some examples of live attenuated vaccines are BCG, oral polio, MMR, measles, chickenpox. And then we have the killed vaccines, which are further divided into inactivated toxin or toxoids like diphtheria and tetanus toxoid vaccine. killed organisms like whole cell pertussis vaccine, subunit vaccines like Haemophilus influenza B, hepatitis B, hepatitis A, tetanus, and meningococcal vaccines. After knowing what are the types of vaccine, now let's see how do vaccines work. The protective efficacy of currently available vaccines is primarily conferred by the induction of antigen-specific antibodies that are capable of binding specifically to the toxins or the pathogen. The role of cell-mediated immunity in vaccines is mainly by supporting antibody production. Other important mechanisms by which CMI work is by the cytotoxic CD8 plus T lymphocytes that may limit the spread of infectious agents by recognizing and killing infected cells or secreting specific antiviral cytokines. First step, when the vaccine enters the body, following injection, the vaccine antigens attract local and systemic dendritic cells, monocytes and neutrophils. In the case of killed vaccines, there is only local and unilateral lymph node activation. Conversely, for live vaccines, there is multifocal lymph node activation due to microbial replication and dissemination. Consequently, the immunogenicity of killed vaccines is lower than the live vaccines. Killed vaccines require adjuvants which provide or improve the immune response by producing local inflammation and recruiting higher number of dendritic cells, monocytes to the infection site. The site of administration of killed vaccines is of importance. The intramuscular route, which is well vascularized and has a large number of patrolling dendritic cells, is preferred over the subcutaneous route. Intradermal route recruits the abundant dendritic cells in the skin and offers the advantage of antigen sparing and early and effective protection. But it may wane faster compared to the intramuscular route. The site of administration is usually of little significance for live vaccines. Immunologic interference may occur with multiple live vaccines unless they are given on the same day or at least 4 weeks apart or by different routes. Please take note, there are two vaccines, rotavirus and oral polio vaccines, which can be given simultaneously or at any interval before or after any inactivated or live vaccines. When you go to a doctor and he injects you with the vaccine, then your body has to do something, right? So let's see what it does. Bacterial like streptococcal pneumonia, Neisseria meningitidis, Haemophilus influenza, Salmonella typhi, etc. Bacterial polysaccharides antigens are T-cell independent antigens. On being released from the injection site, they reach the marginal zone of the spleen and bind to the specific Ig surface receptors of the B cells. In the absence of antigen-specific T cell, B cells activate, proliferate, and differentiate in plasma cells without undergoing affinity maturation in germinal centers, meaning they are not having any specific anti-affinity after maturation. Also remember that the polysaccharide antigens are unable to evoke an immune response in children less than 2 years due to immaturity of marginal zones of the spleen. Protein antigens, which include pure proteins like hepatitis B, hepatitis A, human papillomavirus, etc., are T-cell dependent antigens. The initial response of these antigens is similar to the polysaccharide antigens. However, the antigen-specific helper T cells triggers some antigen-specific B cells to migrate towards follicular dendritic cells. Class switching from IgM towards IgG or IgA happens when B cells receive additional signals from follicular dendritic cells and T cells to undergo affinity maturation and differentiate into plasma cells secreting large amounts of antigen-specific antibodies. Keep in mind, a few plasma cells exit spleen and migrate to survival niche in the bone marrow, where they survive through signal provided by supporting stromal cells, and this results in prolonged persistence of antibodies in the serum. Live vaccines induce an immune response similar to that seen with the protein vaccines. The take of live vaccines is not 100% with the first dose, leading to primary failure. Hence, more than one dose is recommended with most live vaccines. Once the live vaccine has been taken up, immunity is robust and lifelong, or at least for several decades. This is because of continuous replication of the organisms, that is, a constant source of antigen. Now let's take a deeper look into the working of the immune system. Primary immune responses after vaccination depends on various factors such as vaccine type, nature of antigen, vaccination schedule, genetic, environmental factors, and age of immunization. Higher intensity of innate responses has higher antigen content, and more prolonged antigen generally results into higher antibodies. Recruitment of T cells and induction of the germinal centers results into higher antibody responses to protein or glycoconjugate than to polysaccharide vaccines. Hence, broadly speaking, live vaccines are superior, except BCG OPV. Adjuvants improve immune responses to inactivated vaccines by either modulation of antigen delivery and persistence or enhancement of the Th responses, which may support or limit the antigen responses. Failure to induce germinal centers limit the immunogenicity of polysaccharide antigens. As a rule, higher antigen doses increases the availability of antigens for B or T cell binding and activation, as well as for association with follicular dendritic cells. The immune response improves with proper spacing of vaccine doses. Traditionally, the 0, 1, 6 month schedule is considered as a more immunogenic schedule than 6, 10, 14 or 2, 4, 6 month schedules. Many factors that determine primary immune responses after immunization also affect the secondary immune responses. Live vaccines generally induce more sustained antibody response, presumably through prolonged antigen persistence within the host. Secondary responses with inactivated vaccines are highly pronounced, also known as anamnestic response. However, secondary responses are usually blunted with live viral vaccines, as pre-existing antibodies neutralizes the vaccine virus. Failure to generate germinal centers limits the induction of the memory responses and to high affinity long-lived plasma cells. Secondary immune response does not occur with the polysaccharide antigens. A minimal interval of 4 weeks between primary doses allows development of successive waves of antigen-specific primary responses without interference. So, a minimal interval of 4 months between priming and boosting allows affinity maturation of plasma B cells and thus higher secondary responses. So, how to know if the vaccine you got from your doctor is providing protection? For that, a given marker that is measurable, whether the antibody or cellular component elicited is in response to vaccine that confers protection against a disease, is termed as correlate of protection. Measurement of cellular components is difficult, invasive, and highly costly. Diseases like pertussis and human papillomaviruses, however, have no established correlations till now. Correlates of protection are important to confirm immunity, compare vaccines, and therefore need to be standardized and replicable. With all this information, I also want to make sure you know some of the important general instructions regarding vaccination. The following highlights are keywords to help you remember, so be sure to go through them one by one. Here is a table from Indian Academy of Pediatrics to answer the question of where, how, and when to vaccine. Details of some commonly used vaccines will be discussed in the following slides. When I say intramuscular route of injection, what I am trying to say is that the vaccine which I am gonna inject into the body must be administered directly into the muscle. For that, the best way to do is to hold the injection like a pen and at 90-degree angle with the skin in one smooth motion, prick the skin till the length of the needle is 2/3 inside the skin. The only difference in intramuscular and subcutaneous injection is the angle at which you enter the skin, and be sure not to pierce the muscle. For subcutaneous route, you should position your hand in such a way that the angle is about 45 degrees from the skin. I will soon make a dedicated video on practical skills required in a hospital setting where you can understand much better what I am trying to tell you now. Every country has its own guidelines for immunization. We will discuss the latest Indian Academy of Pediatrics guidelines as of 2019. At birth, there are 3 vaccines to be given. BCG. Please also take note of the amount, route, and site of each vaccine as I speak, because these are frequently asked questions in the exams. If due to some reason the BCG was not given at birth, then the baby can be given vaccine up to maximum age of 1 year. Hepatitis B ideally should be given within the first 24 hours of life. Oral polio vaccine can be given until the first 15 days of life to provide appropriate protection. At 6 weeks, 10 weeks, and 14 weeks of life, 4 vaccines are given. OPV can be given until 5 years of age. Pentavalent include diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, hepatitis B with OPV. Remember, rotavirus should begin not later than 1 year of age. At 9 completed months to 12 months, 3 more vaccines are given: MMR, Japanese encephalitis, and vitamin A. At 16 to 24 months, booster doses of the 4 vaccines are scheduled for diphtheria booster, MMR second dose, Japanese encephalitis, and OPV. For children between 5 to 6 years, second booster dose of DTP is recommended. People always ask what are the side effects of vaccine and or is the vaccine safe? Let's see some of the adverse events following immunization. An adverse event is that is caused or precipitated by a vaccine due to one or more of the inherent properties of the vaccine ingredients. Example: extensive limb swelling following DTP vaccination. In this scenario, vaccine might have been used correctly without compromising with manufacturing process, transport, or storage. Thus, absolutely correct use of vaccine may also cause this type of adverse events. An adverse event that is caused by or precipitated by a vaccine that is due to one or more quality defects of the vaccine products, including its administration as provided by the manufacturer. Example: failure for the manufacturer to completely inactivate a lot of IPV leads to a case of paralytic polio. An adverse event arising from anxiety about the immunization. Example: vasovagal syncope in an adolescent following vaccination. The anxiety may spread to community too at times. An adverse event that is caused by something other than the vaccine product, immunization error, or immunization anxiety. Example: fever after vaccination through temporal association and malarial parasite is isolated from the blood. True contraindications are very few. Only 3 permanent contraindications are as follows: severe allergic reaction to a vaccine component or following a prior dose of vaccine, encephalopathy occurring within 7 days of pertussis vaccination, and severe combined immunodeficiency as a contraindication to rotavirus vaccine. A precaution is a condition in a recipient that might increase the chance or severity of a serious adverse reaction, or that might compromise the ability of the vaccine to produce immunity, such as administering measles vaccine to a person with passive immunity to measles from a blood transfusion. 4 permanent precautions circumstances are: high fever more than 105 degree Fahrenheit, persistent crying baby for more than 3 hours, hypotonic hyporesponsiveness, seizures within 3 days. 2 temporary precautions circumstances are: severe acute illness and recipient of antibody containing products. In cases of severe reaction to vaccinations, one must take appropriate and immediate actions to counteract. For that reason, here's the list of some minimum resuscitative equipments. Lastly, my take-home message to all watching this video is utilize the lockdown period to understand things around that we see but never really care to think of. Vaccines are a very powerful tool to fight against diseases in society, but no vaccine gives 100% protection. The remaining percent of protection comes from discipline, hygiene, and proper education of the community. Thank you for hearing me. Stay safe and stay healthy.